All right, good evening, everyone. Glad to have everybody here in City Hall. Happy New Year. It is Tuesday, January 7th, 2020. The time is about 6:05 p.m., and we are here for our monthly business meeting. We're going to begin with a roll call.
Davenport.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Link.
Oh, here, sorry.
Wright.
Present.
Denson.
Here.
Neesmith.
Here.
Edwards.
Here.
Harrod.
Present.
Thornton.
Here.
Hamby. We have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. First, I would like to ask for a motion for approval of minutes of our Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019 meeting.
Mr. Mayor, for clarification, do we need a motion for suspension of the rules since we didn't have an agenda?
We will immediately after written
Then I'll make the
communications.
motion to accept the minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Neesmith. A second for approval of minutes?
A second.
All right, we've got a motion from Commissioner Neesmith, a second from Commissioner Parker. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, minutes are approved. Madam Clerk, do we have any written communications this evening? No written communications. All right, I'm going to come down front for a couple of minutes for a couple of awards. All right. We are lucky. We've got two reasons for me to be down here on the floor and get a little bit of time on my feet tonight. First, it is to recognize the Leisure Services Department, who has been award-winning year after year. And so I'd like to ask Leisure Services Director Kent Kilpatrick and Marketing Specialist Amy Cheek to please come join us because they have recently been at the Georgia Recreation and Parks Association State Conference in November. And so there are a couple of great things that happened at that conference.
Okay.
So, photograph this time. All right. In the past year, the Leisure Services Department launched Leisure Services 2030, which is a 10-year plan for the future of the department. Community input and guidance are essential for the development of this document, which is going to shape the future of Athens' parks, programs, and facilities. Staff planned and implemented an effective media campaign to engage the public about the development of the plan and encourage participation. And as a result of this impressive effort, the department received the Marketing and Visibility Award for a marketing campaign, which recognizes successful and creative coordinated plans used by an agency to market and promote a program, event, or service. So, congratulations very much to you, and thank you for your work. Thanks, Amy. And we now have the reward. I mean, it's like weightlifting, too. A little exercise here. All right. All right. Furthermore, the Leisure Services Department has been honored by GRPA with another statewide award. And I would note for the 9th time in 17 years, our department received the prestigious Georgia Recreation and Park Association's Agency of the Year Award for populations between 80 and 150,000 persons. This award recognizes the agency which has made a significant contribution to recreation, park, or leisure services on a local level and is based on outstanding programs and accomplishments over the past year. This recognition is particularly significant because it's voted on by recreation professionals. So your peers, Director Kilpatrick, believe that you are doing and your staff is doing the job that needs to be done. So congratulations very much. So, Andrew. In keeping with the goals of the department, you two get some exercise this evening, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Got it? Good deal.
All right,
very
thank
much.
you. We appreciate it.
Hey,
Good job. All right, and our time here is not done because even more good work has been underway. And that good work has been from Keep Athens-Clarke County Beautiful, which is our Keep Georgia Beautiful affiliate here in Athens-Clarke County. And KACCB has received the first place Keep Georgia Beautiful Affiliate Award. So I'd like to call forward Stacy and Carlos Pinto. How are you? Thank you for coming down. Carlos, good work. Absolutely. So this award is for the 100 to 150,000 population category of the Keep Georgia Beautiful Foundation. On December 5th, this was awarded at the Marriott Century Center in Atlanta. And this award recognizes the Keep America Beautiful affiliates who prevent litter, improve their community's waste handling practices, and preserve the natural beauty and environment at the grassroots level. The annual award ceremony recognizes outstanding efforts in the areas of litter prevention, waste reduction and recycling, community beautification, and overall community improvement. In fiscal year 2019, Keep Athens-Clarke County Beautiful administered 11 litter prevention programs, 4 recycling programs or events, and 7 beautification programs. They engaged 7,348 volunteers. It's like a big chunk of our community. For a total of 19,677 volunteer hours. So congratulations to you all. Yes, great work. Gather round. All right, great work to everybody on staff. Good job. All right, and as noted, the new business this evening has to be considered under suspension of rules, given that we did not have an agenda-setting meeting in December, and so I would entertain a motion for suspension of rules.
Move for suspension of rules.
Second?
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Neesmith, a second from Commissioner Edwards. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, rules are suspended. And I will make the note that item number 3, the Firefly Trail Project property exchange, is just about finalized, but will cross the finish line a month from tonight, first Tuesday in February. So it's coming up, so it'll be removed from the agenda. We do have citizen input at a couple opportunities this evening. At the front end, on the new business on our agenda, and at the back end on any other item of interest to members of the public. Citizen input, both at the front end on any of these items and on the back end is under basically the same contours. We have a card on the podium, and so if you would fill that card out upon reaching the podium and hand that to the attorney, we can make sure we accurately capture your name. When you do make comment, that is for 3 minutes. When you have 30 seconds remaining, the light will turn yellow, and then when your 3 minutes is up, the light will turn red. So is there any input on items 1, 2, or 4 through 7 this evening? All right, crickets in the new year, my friends. All right, given that, we're going to move on to new business items. Item number 1 is the Tanyard Creek interceptor improvements, a public utilities improvement program. I'd entertain any input from commissioners or questions or a motion. Commissioner Link?
I have a question. On the agenda report, item, I believe it's 10, it mentions the project scope bid included purple pipe on the portion of this project that goes through UGA campus, but UGA opted not to fund that pipe. Can the manager please explain the details of that situation?
Sure. We put that in the bid just to give some idea of what the cost could be. And of course, about $700,000 or so. And UGA elected not to pursue that at this point. It does not mean they're not committed to the concept. I learned I learned this from staff. I haven't verified it with UGA, but I think with the new STEM building, they're actually plumbing in some purple pipe. So I think they are committed to the idea of doing this. We haven't gotten to the point of where we've talked about what the rates would look like or anything like that. So I think they're, as you'll hear next Tuesday night, as the public will hear at the work session, more about the purple pipe, the recycled pipe. Our two, I think, immediate customers would be Athenia Industrial Park and the university, and I think they are committed to that, and we continue to work with them. Just in this particular case, they didn't elect to move forward with that.
So my question is, if we're going to start moving in this direction, which will drastically conserve water in this community, the time to do it is when you're digging up infrastructure and replacing existing infrastructure. If this pipe doesn't get laid now during this major infrastructure project, what are the chances of it ever getting laid anytime in the foreseeable future?
Well, it can be done, I think our most immediate connection is going to be not there, but over around East Campus, River Road, coming directly from, as you'll see, in Friday, when they released the work session presentations, we were reviewing it this morning. The first connection will be from the plant across the river over to the East Campus area. So this is really further down. This is a later phase, and you're right. There would be some convenience of doing it now, but they elected not to. It doesn't mean that they can't do it at a later time.
So I guess my question is, I'm not really clear as to what UGA's has to do with this project. Is because this is public infrastructure, right? Are these streets under which these pipes are laid, are they UGA property?
Well, my understanding is that, that there would have been some cost sharing with that, because it is to help serve, it's infrastructure to help serve them. And that's something that they weren't prepared to do at this point, but they are seemingly willing to do it in the future.
Seemingly?
Well, I mean, we don't have any hard and fast agreements. So this has been staff talking with their staff and what the intent is, and it does seem like they're committed to it with some of their construction that they're doing.
Commissioner Neesmith?
Manager, maybe you can answer this, but it seems like if UGA, if we were to put purple pipe in along this route later, who would be responsible for paying for that? Would that be us or UGA or some kind of cost sharing?
Well, what's been discussed at this point, it'd be a cost share.
So how much more we reckon it might cost to do this later as opposed to the $735,000? Going to be more, right?
I haven't done the cost escalations or when that might happen, but I can certainly talk to staff.
So that means that not only are we avoiding UGA spending $735,000, but we're going to spend more when it's time to put in the purple pipe along this route, as well as UGA spending more.
Well, if y'all want to just hold that till the end of the discussion, I'll try to get some clarification on that, and we can come back to it.
Is there a reason why we couldn't just hold it until we have the presentation next week so we can learn more about this purple pipe and pink pipe or whatever it is?
Well, if you wanted to vote on it next week, that would be good.
Do we have? I mean, can it not wait a month?
Well, we do have a bid. I don't know how long that bid is good for. Typically, it's 30, 45 days. Again, if y'all just, if we can discuss some of the other ones, I'll try to get some answers to these questions real quick.
And if need be, we could have a special called session concurrent with our work session next week.
Yeah, I would just suggest that we engage UGA as much as possible to share, if we have the numbers, how much more it will cost them and us to do this later. That seems to me an important number to know.
Well, and another way to do this is just to amend the not to exceed figure to include that, and we don't have to pull the trigger on it. It's a unit price contract. We can allow that discussion to progress. You can see the favorable pricing we've got versus the other bid projects.
So you're saying perhaps increase our motion, our approval by $735,000, so as a not to succeed.
Not to exceed.
So that we leave that option open for later.
That's right.
Not have to spend it if we see that we can't.
That's right.
Jerry, would you put that in a motion since you just said all that?
I'd like to go ahead and do that if it's the will. I'd like to, and I'm not going to motion to table. I'm going to motion that we approve this with a cost not to exceed. Are we after Strickland? Is that who we're after here?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
$8,417,709 plus, and you can do the math, plus $734,610. That's my motion.
I'll second.
Oh, I have a question.
I believe in the final price, there's some contingency. Do we need to include that in the?
Yes, you're right. It should be the bid price of $8,417,709.
I can clarify that. It's done a little bit differently, and it is a unit price contract. So the contingency is already included in the amount in your agenda item for approval.
Okay, that's a total contingency. right?
And because it's unit price, if it's not spent, then it's a deductive change order, the money comes back to us. Similarly, if we don't proceed with the purple pipe after working with the university, that would become, after your motion, Commissioner Neesmith, that would become a deductive change order at the end if we
So
elect not to pursue
to be
that.
clear, the total bid of $8,000,004 included the purple pipe and contingency.
Yes, the original did, and then they subtracted the purple pipe. That's,
Okay, so my motion can simply be to approve amount not to exceed $8,417,709. Is that correct?
let me pull that.
I'm
What
looking at
you-
item number 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you go to 11,
Okay, yeah, it was said less the cost, so we can vote on the whole $8,000,004, because that includes the purple pipe cost and the contingency.
so just so everybody can keep up with the math, the bid price was 8.4, and that did include the pipe at 734, and then we had a 10% contingency that got us there. So they backed out the recycled pipe and added back the contingency. So what I would say, if it's a 10% contingency, then basically it's going to be, do this for you real quick. It'd be 10% on the 8.4 bid. So
8.451?
Plus 841,000. And if you want an exact figure,
Okay, so we need 8,417,709 plus 10%.
yes, sir.
Is that right?
That's plus a 10% contingency, that's correct.
So we don't have to.
$9,259,479.
So just to simplify this.
Yes.
I think if you word it that way, the contract would be for the bid as presented, which would be the work plus the recycled pipe. Let's just keep the contingency outside the contract. So I think your motion could read to not to exceed the 8.4 million, but including a 10% construction contingency.
Is that clear?
Right.
Clear as mud. Clear as mud?
8.417709
Plus 10.
plus a 10% contingency. I've got a motion from Commissioner Neesmith to that effect.
Second.
Right.
Second from
Mariah, I thought.
Commissioner Link.
No, it's fine.
All right. Any other discussion on this item? Any other math whizzes?
No more math for me. I just wanted the timeline on this is pretty tight. It's supposed to start in February to be done by August, and this does involve a lot of traffic areas. So I'm glad that we can move this forward so that it stays on the timeline
Yeah.
before school starts back in the fall.
Yeah, this will be something we'll need to discuss with them tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, we're moving on to item number 2, setting of qualifying fees for the 2020 general primary election. For those who are new to this is a pretty standard process that we have to do by state law every year, so I'd certainly entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion from Commissioner Parker, second from Commissioner Davenport. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, moving on to item number 4, the Legislative Review Committee report, the business model rideshare for motorized vehicles. We, of course, had some earlier discussion in these chambers about this in a work session. This, I think, just formalizes that. Commissioner Wright, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, as we voted to extend the ban so that we can continue to study this, the committee felt that it would be appropriate to get some feedback from our Athens in Motion Citizens Advisory, and we also thought that this was an appropriate way for everybody to be on board on something that's being assigned to one of our citizen committees. So that's what we're asking for, and I guess, Mr. Mayor, you'll put that into a statement for the committee. Is that how that would go
I'd
next?
be glad to convey that assignment to them. Absolutely.
So moved that we, on this.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to ask the Athens in Motion Committee to review our model rideshare agreement. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, moving on to our virtual server infrastructure expansion. Any commissioner, any commissioner
Very
input on this item?
I'm so curious.
Commissioner Neesmith.
There were no numbers in here as terms of what we're buying. There was brands and so forth, but I didn't see any numbers about how much more storage, how many more cores or CPUs or anything. I mean, I'm in support of this, but do you have any of those things handy, or anybody in the green room?
I don't have any specifics. Let me share a few things with you, and maybe that'll answer your questions. So we currently, we've been working on migrating servers to a virtual infrastructure since 2016. And we have 127 servers currently on the virtual environment and about 60 that are in the physical environment. And there's a need to migrate 45 of those servers from the physical to the virtual. And this, what you're acting on, being asked to act on tonight, will move about half of those, or 22 servers, over to the virtual environment. The other half would need to be replaced within 2 years or so at about the same amount, so you'll be seeing this
Okay,
action again.
Basically, we're phasing it, and this is the first phase.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I'm familiar with the technologies that you're buying. They're excellent, and so I'll move for acceptance of this proposal.
Second.
Any other input? Any other programming advice? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Moving forward, item number 6 is the next step in kind of a long series of activities that will happen in interaction with the Athens Housing Authority and other affordable housing partners. This around the North Athens project that, of course, is part of our SPLOST 2020 that voters approved in November. So
Mr. Mayor, I have a handout, the Exhibit A.
that's fantastic. I appreciate it. Attorney Drake is going to provide us with some documents. And while Attorney Drake is presenting this, Manager Williams, do you want to just provide us with a general update on where we are with this intergovernmental agreement with the Housing Authority?
Absolutely. The Housing Authority felt compelled to bid out the master planning services, and they had 2 responses.
Thank you.
And we met
Thanks.
last Friday after reviewing them, and there were 2, of the 2 responses, a group of folks from the Housing Authority and myself evaluated them. And what JHP Architects had a unanimous recommendation from the group to proceed with master planning. They had more experience with these types of projects before. And this is, as I think folks will come to understand, a pretty intricate deal as you try to work with HUD, and there's low-income housing tax credits involved, and all of that, the mix of housing, much like Columbia Brookside, the old Paldo development, you've got subsidized housing, public housing, I should say, some partially subsidized housing and some market rents. And all of that has to be, from a financial pro forma, keeping HUD involved, it's not just an architectural exercise. And so the Athens Housing Authority, the administrative fee that you see there would be used to work with the partners Columbia and Rose for that financial input, and working with HUD and their expertise to make sure that the ultimate master plan is reflective of something that's financially viable. And so we felt that that was reasonable in the recommendation, and that's why you see a breakout there of a little over 10% for that.
Any commission input or questions about this item?
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Attorney
Just
Drake.
to point out, as reflected in the executive summary that was sent to the commission as part of the agenda report, it indicated that the final number will be inserted into the intergovernmental agreement. So I'll need a motion to do that, to insert the number of $450,500, which is this intergovernmental agreement authorizes the expenditure of SPLOST funds as part of the, to provide for master planning for the North Athens Housing Development Project up to the amount of $450,500. And the and I would like for it to say, as reflected in Exhibit A attached here to and incorporated herein by reference.
So moved.
Commissioner Link and then Commissioner Hamby.
I am really glad that we're taking this step to involve a experienced master planning firm in this. That's going to be absolutely necessary. This is a huge project, and it's a mixed-use project. I just want to just emphasize that this planning process be inclusive, be lots of public input, creative public input sessions, feedback-oriented discussive public input sessions. I really look forward to those sessions, and I just want to assure that.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Commissioner Link. That was part of the grading rubric, that there be a robust community involvement, that there be multiple public meetings, that there be stakeholder focus groups, how much they would involve the residents and that type of thing. And that was another strength I think JHP had, because I think they essentially understand how much of that needs to happen. So that is part of their scope.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Hamby.
That was same question, so appreciate it.
Okay. All right, I've got a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Neesmith, second from Commissioner Edwards. Any additional questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, another item that's sort of got a series of whistle stops associated with it. Item 7 is a resolution with reference to a homestead exemption, which follows up on an earlier request that we made of the General Assembly, kind of in our group requests. I had conversation with both Representative Fry, who will be assisting to draft this language with the aid of Legislative Counsel in the General Assembly, and Tax Commissioner Tony Meadows, Commissioner Fry, and Tax Commissioner Meadows, Representative Fry and Tax Commissioner Meadows would be meeting after successful passage of this to ensure that any administrative needs of her office would be handled in the legislative language that would be considered by the General Assembly. So I just want to pass that along to everybody.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Neesmith.
I'm not going to make a motion for this. Commissioner Denson do that, but I just want to say that, first of all, I really like this concept. I've talked to a couple of commissioners about it, and one of the things I want everybody to understand, that one of one of the importance, probably the most important thing this does, is allow those who are living below the 150% poverty level in houses that are appreciating, as they all are, to stay in those houses, to keep paying their mortgage, and not have their taxes increase. So that is a beautiful thing. And at the end of that, when that house changes hands, then the taxes increase. And a new base is set too. If in case somebody below the 150% poverty level moves in, they're still going to have to pay a higher tax. But I think this is a really nice idea. Now, if this goes through the legislature, then we're going to have a lot of homework to do in terms of what its effect is on a couple of things. One is on our revenue. We're going to take a revenue hit here year over year over year. I think we'll figure out a way to handle that. And the other is its effect on any future TAD, because it will have some effect on any tax allocation districts that we do that might involve homes that are in a TAD district. So we have that work ahead of us, but we'll get there when the time comes.
Commissioner Denson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very excited for us to have this move forward. I mean, as Commissioner Neesmith pointed out, this is basically going to help people, low-income Athenians, be able to stay in their homes. And that's something that we've seen is a great need in many of the areas and neighborhoods in our community that are being gentrified. And people are basically low-income individuals are having a harder time trying to, maybe a home that they inherited or they've lived in for years, having a hard time staying in that house because of drastically rising property taxes. So, I'm very excited for this to go through. I think it's a necessary step. And just to clarify for people watching and trying to follow this, What this is basically going to do is request that the state legislature carry this legislation forward to actually create this, which will then take form in a referendum that would be on the November ballot that the entire populace will be able to vote on. So when it comes down to it, the final say is going to come to the people of Athens if we actually put this in place or not.
Commissioner Parker.
And I'll make a motion for us to.
I'll
pass this.
second.
Oh, I wanted a second.
Okay,
I
I'll
was
take
hand
my
and
second.
everything. No, it's fine. Terry can second. I also just want to express my enthusiasm about this. I know that there's a lot of folks in my neighborhood who are feeling the squeeze, and this will be a huge burden off of their shoulders if we can get the local legislative delegation to bring this to a referendum. I wanted to also take a leaf out of Andy's book really quick and note a typographical issue.
You need my red pen.
On the first page of the resolution, I can't quite see how many paragraphs down, but it says, whereas the Athens-Clarke County, Georgia Initiative for Community Housing recommends putting in place a property tax freezes on low-income residents, and I just wanted to make sure we're talking about a property tax freeze.
I'm glad that our number is singular, not plural there now.
Yeah, simplify the
if-
issue. It's just one kind of freeze.
If everybody can accept that?
If everyone can accept that change,
All right.
then I would
Motion and a second.
Yes.
be thrilled to move this forward.
Thank you. I will note that the semester began today and everybody's pencils are sharpened.
The linguist caught it.
Any other commissioner input on the side of Commissioner Harrod?
Thank you. I think this is good, too. I just want to be sure of the process. So if we approve this tonight, which I think we will, then it goes to the legislature, assuming they would move this as local legislation.
Local legislation,
I'm assuming.
ideally this
So
session.
assuming that is done, then it would appear on the ballot in November of this year for a referendum, and assuming that passes, then there's going to be a whole bunch of nitty-gritty things that need to be worked out.
Yes.
So that comes back to us. Who does that working out?
Good question. So what I discussed with Tax Commissioner Meadows and Commissioner Fry is that should this see successful approval at the ballot box in November of 2020, there simply is some technical details that have to be worked out. As you can imagine, there's now some software that manages all of our taxable property, including exemptions. And so the anticipation would be that in the remainder of calendar 2020 and the entirety of calendar 2021, that would happen. You know, we're in a time where people are talking about all kinds of new technology for voting and all sorts of things. We see some occasional foibles with those, and we just want to make sure that we're careful in terms of applying, you know, what would be the voter rule to our mechanisms. So the anticipation would be that people's tax bills that they receive at the end of 2021 and pay in 2022 would be the first tax year to which this would be applied. And then there would be some of what I think we generally call rulemaking and administrative procedure that the tax commissioner's office would finalize insofar as things like which documents have to be brought forward to their desk, how that's conveyed to the public, how those records are stored, and the like.
So that's kind of what I was, sorry.
No, go ahead.
What I was imagining. I mean, one of the technical things that we would have to figure out as well is what would happen if somebody who is at 150% or below the federal poverty level, and that's affecting their tax, what they pay in property taxes, if they are no longer in that category, if they get a different job or something like that.
So to look at a comparable model that Fulton County uses, they require recurrent submission of those documents to ensure that you stay in that eligibility category, which could, of course, change. You know, I mean, one could be eligible for a decade and then find themselves in the 11th year ineligible. And so they would have to continually, the way it works in Fulton County, you have to recurrently submit those documents, your 1040, for example.
And that's what I imagine. I just wanted people to understand that, but it will require some extra work out of the tax commissioner.
It certainly would, and even on the individual basis, the anticipation is that some of those folks who may not file taxes at all may have to go through just simply the formal process of filing taxes so that they've got a federal document that can be submitted to the tax commissioner to participate in this program. Commissioner Neesmith.
Since this would be an enabling move by the legislature, would we also have to pass a local ordinance?
I believe that once this was passed by the General Assembly, it would simply then be approved at the ballot box in November of 2020, and it would just be administrative functioning, but not local ordinance that would have to be changed at that point. It's my understanding.
I have a,
Commissioner Edwards?
I've been inspired by my colleagues, and if you turn to the second to last paragraph, there's a subject-verb agreement.
No.
It should read that the Mayor and Commission of Athens-Clarke County Unified Government supports policies and initiatives that create and maintain affordable housing and that help families facing economic hardship to stay in their homes.
Who wrote this thing?
All right.
We should be a model of
So we have one change in number and one change in subject-verb agreement this evening.
I'll agree to that.
All right, any other notes of major or minor importance?
I think we've created a monster.
All right.
A grammar monster.
I think we've done a good job. I just appreciate everybody's work. I mean, certainly last year, as we first had conversations with General Assembly members, and this year, I want to give Commissioner Denson credit for having drafted much of this language.
And had two typos, yeah.
And you know, I can refer him to some adult education classes should he need those.
Those weren't typos.
And do agree, I think this is going to be a stabilizing feature in many of our neighborhoods. I mean, I'll make the kind of very personal note that about 22 years ago, I negotiated for purchase of my house on Pulaski Street for the then seemingly large sum of $89,000. And in the last 12 months, 2 homes have changed hands on my street for $600,000. I mean, I've remained generally able-bodied. You can disagree or agree with that if you will. But I've been able to work, and so I can maintain myself in my home. But were I on a fixed income, were I disabled, if I'd moved into kind of senior years where Social Security was my only income, that might put me in a challenging circumstance given that significant increase in property values just up the block. So I think for all of those kind of folks, this is going to be an enormous benefit. So I will call for all in favor. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you, everybody. All right. Now is that time when we have resident input on any item that was not on the agenda. And then during the mayor's segment, there will be a couple of formalities that we have to get to. Okay. Again, it is that time for resident input on any item that was not on the agenda. Same rules described earlier apply. Please provide your name to the attorney via the card. You'll have 3 minutes for your input. When you have 30 seconds remaining, the light will turn yellow. When your time is up, the light will turn red. So good evening, ma'am, and Happy New Year.
Hi, Happy New Year. I'm Paula Loniak, and I live in Oglethorpe County against my will. I wasn't even going to come tonight. I was thinking, whatever. But then I started reading the comprehensive plan that we worked so hard on for 2018, and I started getting really agitated. On page 26, if you want to read along, community goals, people, prosperity, place, and on page 26, housing is addressed. Here are some of the highlights. Pursue a reduction in the minimum floor area requirement for dwellings. Allowance for in-law suites or studios for owner-occupied parcels. Examine the current definition of family and whether it's too restrictive. Affordable or subsidized public housing options are too few with long waiting lists. Everyone should have a quality place to live. Renovation and repurposing of older buildings is like former big box stores and other. Workforce housing study, remember that? We got the results in 2016, and my takeaway was that incomes are stable and housing costs are going up. Housing options should reflect the diversity and meet the needs of the community, a variety of types, prices, and locations. Now, I don't want to live, I know people are saying some good things about Columbia, Brookside. I don't necessarily want to live with a bunch of older people. I don't feel like I'm ready for that. So anyway, going on with the comprehensive plan, acknowledge and develop strategies to address issues related to gentrification. all of Athens-Clarke County is at risk if it hasn't already taken over certain neighborhoods, like what's happening on Prince Avenue at that building that's going up. It doesn't fit there. Create quality housing using innovative techniques like accessory dwelling units. And page 26, land use. Implementation of inclusionary zoning techniques like density bonuses and a related mix of uses if utilized in new development or redevelopment. Proactive planning for the anticipated population and demographics expected, taking into consideration multiple generations of citizens that encompass Athens, considering a contingency plan for the mall, which I think got talked about last month, including what could eventually be it used for. One good use would be a tiny house village. Here we are on page 29, still under land use. Re-examine the zoning ordinance with a focus of building out. I see I'm really running out of room. There are many available lots along corridors that could be purchased directly by Athens-Clarke County to achieve this and could be could in turn be marketed for development, like a residential mixed use. I went on and on. I thought I had plenty of time for this, but anyway, basically, it's all in this comprehensive plan that we all work so hard on, and it just doesn't seem like these things are getting addressed. And maybe they are, but you're not letting me know about it.
Thank you, Ms. Sloniak.
Happy New Year. I'm Joseph Carter, and I live at 175 Oglethorpe Avenue, and I'm here on behalf of the Lenontown Project and the Lenontown community. We have been working on a resolution that addresses the harms that the city and the University of Georgia, the University System of Georgia, enacted on the community of Lenontown through urban renewal. And many of you have seen this resolution. We are in the process of reaching out to all of you. So instead of me speaking, I want to deliver a message on behalf of one of the residents that many of you have met and worked with so far. Her name is Hattie Whitehead. She lives in District 6. She wants to say, the purpose of this resolution is for us, former residents, to advocate for Lenontown when our parents could not. We were given no choice whatsoever. We were kicked out of our homes. Our community was destroyed. It was erased by both the city of Athens and UGA. And we deserve justice. We are taking the high road to work with Mayor and Commission on this resolution. We expect you to do the same and work with us. This means taking seriously what we have to say in this resolution and to completely support our language and our demands. We look forward to working with all of you. We must show our city, our state, and our country how to deliver justice to Lenontown and cities like Lenontown, so deeply harmed by urban renewal. Let's do this right. Thank you. So, I'm going to say this. Let's do this right. You all have an incredible opportunity to pass a resolution that gives recognition and redress to a community that was harmed irreparably, erased. And that means letting them have the complete say in what they want and undeserved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. their input this evening. Attorney Drake.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sam Raffle. I live at 230 Spalding Circle. Last spring, my wife was visiting a patient at Piedmont Athens Hospital, and during that visit, she experienced a severe allergic reaction. She accessed the emergency room where they hurriedly took her back and gave her IM epinephrine, placed her on a cardiac monitor, started an IV, and took a baseline set of vital signs. They quickly administered IV Benadryl, IV Pepcid, and IV Solumedrol. The rapidity with which the protocol for anaphylaxis was implemented was impressive and forever appreciated by me. This is exactly the same rapid pre-hospital treatment administered by paramedics in the field. Contrast that with the lack of care provided a Barrow Elementary student who experienced the same condition this past August. And we're not dealing with outliers. It's awful, and these potential situations are created daily. As you were told here, the July 9th work session, quote, if National EMS is going to be the 911 provider, they made it clear that they have access to the non-emergency transports that both hospitals would always have every day and on a regular basis. Non-emergency transports don't have anything to do with 911 and should not be built into our 911 system. They should be on a separate contract. One day this past fall, my son Noah came home from school, Cedar Shoals, and told me that one of his friends and classmates had an allergic reaction while they were on a field trip to UGA's Oglethorpe House. This is just a few blocks from Barrow Elementary. He said that it took the ambulance too long, 12 to 13 minutes, to get there, and that his friend was having trouble getting air to breathe. I asked if the fire department came, and he said, I don't think so. Through multiple open records requests, I determined that the call was placed from the Oglethorpe House on the UGA campus. The call came in as a nonverbal special needs child having a severe allergic reaction to food with sudden onset of hives, a swollen face, and coughing. After about 9 minutes, National EMS called our 911 center to request the fire department. After 11 minutes, National EMS called our 911 center to say that this child is having difficulty breathing, so they're now going to go lights and sirens. It is incomprehensible to me why the fire department wasn't dispatched immediately. There was an EMS delay to this call, and the manufactured delay of the fire department was a complete waste of that resource. There are two things that we can do to begin to address the issue of the fire department on potentially life-threatening calls. First, we can get control of our 911 dispatch and fully implement the PD recommended option to take over all 911 dispatching, to include emergency medical dispatching. Second, I'm going to recommend that Clarke County school system personnel ask for a fire response at the time they call 911. Those calls have already typically been screened by a nurse, and we don't need to be building in delays waiting on National EMS to make that call. Our children are just too important. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Raffle.
Hi, I'm Alan Jones, 195 Xavier Drive. Today I want to talk about something that will mainly only cost a bit of time and ink, but will save the ACC government millions of dollars, keep people from getting killed or wounded, reduce the need for policing and fire truck dispatches, fight climate change, reduce obesity, make in-town living more desirable and safe, encourage young people to want to stay or come to work here, foster community, provide further transportation equity, and slow traffic. Based on an outdated traffic standard from days gone by, most of our Athens roads were designed to have 12-foot wide lanes, same as are used for our interstates. Drivers instinctively understand the connection between lane width and driving speed. The National Cooperative Highway Research Program and others have demonstrated that urban and suburban 12-foot lanes are clearly associated with higher speeds and higher crash frequencies than 10-foot lanes, like we have right here on Broad, all the way down to Hancock. This is the main reason that most people drive 45 miles per hour plus on 12-foot roads like College Station, Lexington, Timothy, Mitchell Bridge, Whit Davis, Whitehead, North Avenue, among others. The Institute of Traffic Engineers, ITE, found that lanes wider than 10 feet generate risk for higher crash severity. The National Association of City Planning Officials found that 10-foot urban lanes handle no less traffic than a 12-foot lane. The National Association of City Transportation Officials, NACTO, standards state lane widths of 10 feet are appropriate in urban areas and have a positive impact on a street's safety without impacting traffic operations, and narrower streets promote slower driving speeds, which in turn reduce the severity of crashes. The ITE handbook states 10 foot should be the default standard width for general purpose lanes at speeds 45 miles per hour and less. These are the big boys. It's also been shown that buses and fire trucks can live happily ever after in 10-foot lanes as well. What do you get when you repave a road from 12 to a 10-foot standard? At minimum, a free bike lane, albeit slightly narrow, but a 4-foot bike lane like we have on River Bend and elsewhere is still better than a sharrow. If the road already has bike lanes, you get protected ones. I would encourage ACC to adopt a 10-foot lane standard for all urban and suburban repaving projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Any other input from the public tonight? All right. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the mayor's report, and I'm going to begin that by turning the floor over to Commissioner and Mayor Pro Tem Jerry Neesmith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank my commission colleagues and the mayor and staff for the great communications given me as my year as mayor. The result I've gotten and have enjoyed and been gratified by the work. I especially want to thank Commissioner Allison Wright, the former Mayor Pro Tem, for her suggestions and guidance, when I needed it or not, helping to execute my duties more effectively. I'm glad to say that my efforts to solve day-to-day issues that my constituents have remained my first priority during this year. I will continue to work on behalf of my constituents, our neighborhoods, our businesses, and all of Athens-Clarke County. The new year ahead will require continued and increased intensity. There are several new initiatives on the west side that will deserve even more attention, including the new West Side Park, sidewalks on Mitchell Bridge Road and Timothy Road, Beach Haven, Tallahassee Forest Nature Preserve, and the GDOT Highway Project, to name a few. We, the commission as a whole, have a full agenda this year with SPLOST planning, the prosperity package, and the FY21 budget, and so much more. As you may have surmised, I do not intend to run for re-election as the mayor, as the mayor pro tem. The effort required to win re-election requires a great deal of work, and I must be able to do that and continue my support for the district and the county at large. And so what you may have surmised is that I intend to run for re-election this year. With all that, I do not want to be nominated, and I hereby nominate Russell Edwards as the mayor pro tem. Commissioner Edwards is a thoughtful, analytical commissioner and an excellent communicator. He works hard as a commissioner and will serve as a very effective mayor pro tem. I encourage you to elect Commissioner Edwards as our next mayor pro tem.
All right, so Commissioner Neesmith has nominated Commissioner Edwards for mayor pro tem. I think a fine choice. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion for Commissioner Edwards for mayor pro tem for 2020 and a second from Commissioner Wright. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Commissioner Edwards, I appreciate your willingness to take on the mantle. I think you're going to do a great job. It's going to be a good time. All right. A couple other items of note in my report this evening. I'm going to, in the next couple of weeks, be announcing the names for the Music Walk of Fame nominating committee. We know we've approved the physical contours of the Music Walk of Fame. The Athens Cultural Affairs Committee is assisting in that process. But as a body, their sort of musical knowledge is relatively limited, so there will be a member of the ACAC on the nominating committee, but there will be about another 6 members as part of that. So just anticipate that that'll be coming forward. The notion is that it will serve like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or the Georgia Music Hall of Fame or similar bodies where there's an ongoing nominating committee, because the intent is that our Walk of Fame will have new members over many, many, many years to come. So excited about that. Next announcement is that the Community Police Advisory Board Task Force is going to be assembling on February 12th and 13th. That group's going to be assisted by technical expertise from the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement. That National Association representative will be presenting to the mayor and commission the morning of February 12th. So the morning of February 12th, if you could pencil that onto your calendars, if you are able to make that. If you're not, I certainly understand, and we'll be providing some additional information to you. So I'm glad to have that moving forward. Last thing is another calendar note. Our next meeting with the Clarke County School District Board of Education as a joint meeting will be on Monday, February 10th at 5:30 at Hillsman Middle School. Again, that's Monday, February 10th at 5:30 at Hillsman Middle School, and you'll see an agenda probably in about the next week for that. That's everything tonight. Going to move on to ask any reports from the manager this evening.
No, sir.
Anything from the attorney? All right. Going to go ahead and receive input from commissioners. I'm going to begin with Commissioner Hamby, and we'll end with Commissioner Davenport.
Nothing tonight, Mayor, thank you.
I have nothing.
Just want to wish everybody a Happy New Year. Hope it's good for everybody.
Happy New Year, and thank you to my colleagues for your vote of confidence, and I look forward to a great year on the commission. Thank you.
I have nothing.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things. I had a question to the manager just on, I was reviewing the purchasing thing, and it had on there for us doing $229,000 for inmate health to Correct Health. And when I thought we had, I was curious what that was because I thought we had Armor Corrections doing our, is that? And the main reason I asked is that Correct Health is what we had before that we found was not sufficient, and sent it back out to bid because we're not happy with their services. And then I was just a little concerned then that we were using them again.
Sure.
So I mean, if you don't have that readily available, we can.
I'll consult the sheriff on that and respond.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. And the only other thing is on Tuesday, January 28th. The next District 5 Town Hall, I'll be co-hosting with Commissioner Melissa Link and focusing on the Western Downtown Athens Historic District, and that's going to be at 6 p.m. at Flicker Theater, open for everybody to come so we can start getting some of that dialogue and public information going out there about that historic district. And after, I also just want to thank everybody for coming out, and Happy New Year.
All right. Happy New Year to everybody. I hope you had a great holiday. A little restaurant update in 5 Points. El Barrio is closed for the season. I got to read a sign on the front of El Barrio. They'll see us in March, and they appear to be doing events in the meantime. So if you have an event and you need a venue, why don't you look up their website and contact El Barrio. But they said they'll see us in March. So I wanted to update everybody on that because it was news for me too.
Happy New Year, everybody. Last year was a rough one, so I'm looking forward to a very productive 2020. I want to thank Commissioner Denson. We'll be working together on this town hall about the Downtown Historic District, and we look forward to getting lots of information out there and reaching out to folks and making sure everybody understands what's going on.
Happy New Year, everyone. I received a request to rename a street in my district from Odd Street to Rosanelle Howard Street after a 60-year resident of Odd Street that passed away in 2019. At the time, she was the oldest woman living in Athens at 108 years of age. She is given really high recommendations from her neighbors, Miss Gloria Little and Miss Evelyn Wright. And I also support this move as well and like to ask the mayor to put this on a future agenda.
Thank you for that.
Alrighty. Finally, okay.
Boy.
I know, right? I actually would like to thank staff, all the staff, and for all of those who participated in Parade of Lights last year. It was a wonderful event, and if you missed out, it was a great parade. I think it was like 96 floats. And I will be voting for Chewbacca. And as a segue, I do want to do a PSA for the community. It is an election year. We do have 2 elections this year. Well, you have to vote twice, once in May and once in November. So please, exercise your right to vote.
Register.
And register. Yeah, get registered to vote. And I also like to commend Commissioner Denson for his homestead exemption work. It was a job well done, and I already thank him for that. And I would like for us as a body, when we work on our budget, to look at all ACC employees at minimum getting paid $15 an hour. That's it.
All right. We now need a vote to enter into executive session for discussion of real estate acquisition and/or disposal and potential litigation.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Got a motion from Commissioner Neesmith to enter executive session for those 2 purposes. Second from Commissioner Denson. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you much, members of the public. We appreciate you coming out tonight. Thank you for your time.